Welcome. I see Guy here and Matar. Um, Welcome everyone to another episode of the Platforms live stream, where we talk to experts in the industry around building platforms and using platforms in the cloud native space. And today we have the pleasure of having Matar Peles. He works with Port, and today we'll be talking about the top five common use cases in IDP and digging into like what the P stands for. Hi, Matar.
Hi, Carlos. First time doing a stream with you. Always excited to be in a stream of the performers. It's my second time. It feels like the first. So I'm excited about this session. Yeah, let's get started.
Yeah,
It's
thank you
good
for
to have
having
you
us
with us.
back. Yeah, a guy. For
Yeah,
people
I
that don't
said
know
it's
who
good
Guy is.
to. No, I'm said that it's good to have Matar with us. He's always welcome as a guest, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, we are getting you back. We it looks like we discussed a few interesting topics. So today we're going to talk about the top use cases on IDP. I think you have some slides to show.
Yes, so if we can share the slides and we'll get started. I'll just give initial context about what I'm going to talk about and we'll open that for discussion. I work as a solution engineer in Port. I'll do a quick intro in a minute. And we see a lot of customers using IDP for different use cases. So we decided to come and I decided to like do some sort of to aggregate that into some sort of a summary and show you the top 5 use cases that we see in Port. Port is an internal developer portal tool that provides these kind of portal services on top of your platform. So we're going to go one by one. I'm going to show you the top 5 most popular IDP use cases. We're going to analyze them, see what pain they're trying to solve, and we're going to give some examples. I would be happy to keep it interactive. So for everyone listening to us, please feel free to ask questions and let's open that for discussion because I think there can be some good stories coming from discussions over here.
Yeah, like always, Phil, friends, if you're online right now, ask your questions. If you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, we'll watch those and we'll give them to Matar and ourselves will try to discuss it. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, Matar. It says you're a solutions engineer, so you are actually in the field, right? Talking to end
Yeah.
users.
Yeah, so usually I see different end user, different new platform engineers companies that are starting their platform engineering journey, hear about their main problems and trying to help them to make the platform engineering journey a bit better using an internal developer portal that can really organize this kind of a journey. So yeah, I hear a lot about these different journeys, these different customers, and I came here to share these. I'll give a little bit of context about myself. I'm a platform engineer. I used to be a DevOps team leader. Today, I realized that what we actually did was platform engineering. I also was a programming training leader of young engineers. And in my free time, I'm a huge basketball fan, NBA fan. I love go to the gym, and I'm a
Thank you.
huge I drink 2-3 iced americanos a day, and I have the perfect recipe. I always say that. So if you need any recipe, let me know. And let's get started and talk about today's subject. And I'll
Great.
start by talking about. You have any point, Carlos? By the way.
No, I think this will be useful conversation because you are a solutions engineer. I'm also a solutions architect, and you will have a perspective of not just talking to one customer or end user in these platforms. We talk about end users, but you talk to one company, right, or end user organization, and you talk to the other one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So you have a perspective of like this problem is coming up again and again, right? On actually like on the field, and also the other thing that I want to learn from you is integration. Like every user that is building a platform is integrating with something different, right? So they're always looking for like, well, how do I do this? But I'm using Bitbucket, not GitHub. How do I use this? I'm using Jira, not ServiceNow. I'm using this. I'm using managed Kubernetes, not on premise, right?
So this is
So the integration.
this is my favorite part of the job in Port, that we must integrate with all these kind of tools. We must provide creative solutions to small, like maybe not that common tools, but we must be creative and provide some sort of a framework for everything. I will try to show that as well in how we do it in Port today. But
Yep.
yeah, we have
And
a
with
lot of
that
things to talk about.
context, yeah, with that context, let's get started. Dig deeper.
Yeah, let's go. So today, what I'm going to talk about, like my main topic, today's agenda, I'll start by talking about why our use cases in internal developer portals are such a subject to change. Like, why are they changing? Why it's not something static? Why it's something that can always be updated? It's super interesting. Then I'll talk about the latest top 5 IDP use cases we see as today. I'll talk about which one are more trending, which one is which ones have always been there and like the most popular ones. So we'll try to distinguish these. Hopefully, we'll have enough time to show a quick demo of 1 or 2 use cases in an actual internal developer portal. And in the end, I want to talk about how we can take use cases and show them of part of a bigger process, like a company objective or maybe a metric that we want to see improved.
Yep.
Let's get started. So first part I want to talk about is why IDPs are dynamic by nature, why the use cases are changing over time. And the explanation can be seen in this view over here, where we can see that we have on the left side all of the different tools and platform every company is using. As you said yourself, Carlos, these can be different between every company. Every company has its own DNA, and it's actually changing also over time. One day you can find yourself working with GitLab. 1 month later, you can see yourself migrating to GitHub, right? So it's very common to see that. And we also have different personas that are actually utilizing and using these different architectures as part of different workflows that are part of their job, right? So all of these workflows eventually are use cases, right? Because we want to bring a feature to production. We want to manage the on-call operation in our company. We want to manage application security better. So we have the different personas managing these different workflows. Now, since everything here is dynamic, the use cases are also so dynamic, which is why IDPs are so cool, because you can find yourself any new day, like implementing a brand new use case that you never saw. And this is what's also cool about platform engineers, that they are so creative. And one day you find yourself like in a demo of a certain company showing you a use case that you never saw. And this is, I think, the really cool part of it. So this is like the bottom line here. New workflows that are always changing due to the fact that new stakeholders are using the platforms, or maybe we are using new tools, are bringing us new IDP use cases.
Interesting. Yeah, workflows is a good way of describing this. And for the IDPs, and we'll continue talking about IDP for short, like it's easier in the platforms to talk about that. But we refer to IDPs not a portal or UI or web app. There's a misconception with some folks that maybe not in the weeds or like in the day-to-day doing platform engineering every day, and they see the term IDP and they think it's just like an Angular or jQuery web app that basically we have a front-end person just writing code and writing widgets. When we're referring in this context, is cloud native, and we're talking about platform. And you can see here, architecture is about APIs. Like it's like how do we use APIs to create a workflow for creating an experience for these stakeholders, right? So it's about platform. The UI is very important, right? Because that's how you consume an experience. But there could be other ways you consume an experience. But a portal is usually like the nice way to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
And the portal is a UI, even though it also orchestrates the different operations in your organization in these workflows.
Yep.
And the portal actually provides you with a toolkit. So we implement these use cases using all the different pillars of a portal. So it can be a very unified software catalog updated in real time from your real-time environment, right? It can be dashboards that you create for certain personas that are helping them with their certain workflows. It can be self-service, which is one of the most common use cases or pillars for IDPs, where you want to provide independency for certain personas and automations as well. And also a very important layer is RBAC. So we have like this toolkit where we can just, play this puzzle and connect it to all the different use cases. And I will try to explain in each use case how we use each pillar, and also demo it, of course. Let's begin with our first use case. We're beginning the top 5. We'll begin with the first, and this one is actually, I guess, the most common one, the most straightforward one, the one that portals and IDPs started with overall, which is the use case of releasing a feature to production, which brought also service catalog, the concept of scaffolding and templatizing, and the whole concept of how fast can we release a feature to production and help developers with their with streamlining the releasing of a new feature.
Maybe
So in each, yeah,
maybe before we jump in, you can explain a little bit like what are the top 5? Like, how do you get this data? How do you come up with
that's a
this
good point,
list?
actually. So we did some sort of a check within like internal import, and we checked like based on some customers we have, and which we talked with our go-to-market team, and we aggregated that into a top 10 list, I would say. I wanted to show today the top 5, and I feel like this list is constantly updating. So by the time we aggregate this data, we might need to do that one more time in a month. And yeah, so like our solution architects import, our customer success team, our go-to-market team are hearing these use cases and the pains on a daily basis, which is why we feel like we should share it. And also like it's easy for our viewers now to see that their problem is very common, and maybe they can utilize how people are building IDPs also for their case as well. So this is like the main goal of this session, so to show like how the problems can be solved using this kind of tooling. Cool. Let's talk about the first use case. And in each use case, I'm going to talk about like 3 points: the why, who is the persona we're trying to help here, and how you can recognize if this is relevant for you. Basically, what our customers told us when they raised this issue and wanted this solution. So when we talk about releasing a feature to production, we have here the why, which is that a feature release concept requires expertise and knowledge of all the internal processes you have and different tooling. That means that it's hard to streamline in one action the feature release process, right? It's not that easy. It's something that requires multiple teams. It requires multiple platforms. And it's maybe like something that is very asynchronic because a developer needs to write the code. Before that, he needs to create a repo. After that, he needs to create a GitHub secret and maybe perform some sort of a CI process to check some operations. So it's very asynchronic, it's very random, and really variable and very variable to how the coding process looks like. This is why we need some sort of a tool that can break it into pieces and provide the whole and streamline the whole process in one place. The main persona, as you heard here, is a developer, and you can see that over here. And usually the points we hear from our platform and developers, like how you can indicate that you need this kind of a tooling. So a lot of the companies we see manage their services in a spreadsheet or a Confluence page. So you have this kind of a mission, a weekly, a monthly, quarterly mission in your team leader's backlog or VP's backlog, where they need to go over all the services and update some data manually to keep the entire company in track. You schedule, like if your developers need to create a new feature for a new service and they need to schedule a meeting with another developer to get context, it might be a good indication that you can solve it faster and you can get that data in real time using a service catalog. If it takes too long to fully onboard a new developer and this developer needs to schedule meetings or maybe it's not clear for a new developer what infrastructure and what the underlying platforms look like. IDPs are great for that because you can have all the context you need as a developer in one place, and your daily routines can be really streamlined for you in one place. And also, if you see that one team, and I guess, Guy, this is something you're familiar with, like there's one team that has this repo with super structure, there's these readmes that look beautiful, and then there's another team where some services are not structured and not standardized at all, and you feel like you would want all the teams to work like this one golden team. So you would want to streamline the process of creating a new repo or creating standards in a better way. This is a good way for you to maybe take action here and streamline the release of a new feature. Overall, the tooling we provide here with an IDP is a service catalog, which is super easy to understand with everything you need for the release of a new feature, right? All the context you need, all the documentation, the API specification. Maybe to get started, you need a new repo or new infrastructure, so you can get that with self-service in a click of a button. And it should be streamlined like in the fastest ways possible. So you can just focus as a developer on coding. And this is the goal. So you can, as a developer, will be able to just understand what you have, understand the infrastructure, but you should not wait too long for the infrastructure and everything you need to start working on your new service. Any points on that, you guys?
So in summary, just to move along, like really this top use case is around releasing a feature to production. So I see it more as a business use case. Like this is the whole point that like if somebody's running a business, is using technology, right? IT, a business person's coming and like, why is it taking 6 months to get a feature out? And then comes all these smart people in the platform team saying like, it's because it takes time, right? And then this is what you are having here. Feature time to market, and it could be any of these potential things of like things are not centralized, not easy to find, scheduling meetings, then that's something that you stop doing because the information is centralized. Took too long to onboard a new developer. Well, that and also that you orchestrate that onboarding to cut anything, so you start measuring the metric, right? So it says you start with just to give guidance to people that are building platforms, is like releasing a feature to production. This is how we make money, right? Everybody or make value, right? It could be something, make something right, but you provide value. This is why you have an organization. You use IT to do it, and it takes time, right? So you have to know like how much time is it taking, right? That's the metric. You write it down, say it takes 6 months, and then that's the goal. Let's lower it down from 6 months and then tackle things. If in 6 months you're still taking 6 months, you work on something else that wasn't this this goal. So I
Exactly.
think this is why this needs to be the top use case, right? Work on the metric, right? Measure yourself. How long does it take to get a feature out? Do the analysis and then start like working on things that improve that metric. But and have it, I think at the bottom we're going to talk about measuring. So this will be something that you will measure.
Exactly. And yeah, we see that also IDPs are also a great platform for showing the metric in real time. You said that you need
Yep.
to measure the time it takes to feature it, like to release a new feature. So it's hard to calculate when you do it manually because it can really be updated on a weekly basis. So I would want to see it in the trend, like over time, or maybe to see it again a certain target. And this is where we can use some monitor tools or IDPs to really see it updated in real time. And this is our goal here. And I agree completely. You must have a metric that you actually see the value with. Let's move to the next use case. It's our first one. Second one, I think, Carlos, you will like. It's cloud management. So what we talk about here is the complexity of managing cloud resources overall in an organization, and the ability of an IDP to simplify this process and also provide self-service capabilities on top of the different cloud resources using a pretty simple UI. So the why here talks about it, how hard it is, or maybe I wouldn't say hard, but there's some sort of a learning curve, and you need to be an expert to handle DevOps and to be strong in like managing cloud infrastructure. So we see organizations, and we know that they have like a DevOps team or a platform team that are the owners of the actual infrastructure, and usually they get tickets if you don't have self-service. Where for every small, so we have like different kind like levels or like in this kind of maturity in platform engineering. So it begins with developers doing everything, and then they move to a DevOps team, the platform team that actually can provide the services using tickets. And then you have like in the end you have self-service, right, which is completely automated. And some teams are like in the middle where they provide Terraform modules for developers to self-serve themselves using Terraform. But eventually, the process is not that easy for developers. They need to understand a lot about cloud to perform some sort of operation regarding their work, right? So here we're talking about two personas. We're talking about the communication basically between the developers and the platform team, how we can help this communication be better, and to help the platform team provide better services on top of the cloud. So if you feel like your DevOps team is a bottleneck for some sort of resource management flow, like resource creation, where you have a ticket that takes 2 weeks to, like if creating an S3 bucket create a few days even, it might not be the most efficient state to be at. If you have in a state where your developers need to create a PR based on the Terraform module, and you feel like to do that, developers need to be too familiar with Terraform, and you feel like it's not the right like phase your organization is at, and you don't want them to be too familiar with Terraform, you just want them to click on a button, this use case might be relevant for you. If it's hard for you to understand ownership, like which team owns which resource, and it's really common for that use case. IDPs are also very useful for that use case. And also, if you feel like the cloud environment, like this is like the summary of all of it, like you needed some sort of an abstraction. Like you need to call an EC2 a VM, or maybe call an RDS some sort of a database, because eventually that is what it means for developers. Might be the right tooling for you. And really, it can save time because you can really avoid mistakes done by developers. You can help them, again, focus on the coding, and also avoid bottlenecks in your organization by allowing the DevOps/platform team doing their actual work, which is automation and building the environment, and really focus on the fun part of platform engineering instead of like manual configuration. So this is like the end goal here.
Yeah, I agree with this use case on cloud management. And it's not like the business goal is to do cloud management, right? The business goes to release the feature. You going to either buy a bunch of servers and IT and put it in your house, or you're going to use the cloud? And then the next thing is, well, we have to be efficient about using the cloud. We'll have to be secure about using the cloud. And then that's where like the DevOps and the platform team are the experts on it. And it's a matter of like getting automation, right? That team needs to have automation to do it, and also provide that to, let's say, developers. Some companies or organizations, they call like feature engineers, the FEs, right? Feature engineers are working on the feature, and they just need a Redis cache, or they just need an SQL database, or they just need to have some service or Kubernetes cluster, for example. They're working on the feature. The IT and the cloud is something that another team can serve as a service internally to provide to whatever cloud they use. So yeah, good use case. Let's move on to the next one.
Let's go. So it's really connected. Like I feel like the use cases are really serving each other, and we will see that now in the next use case where we talk about aligning developers with standards. Now, when we say the word standards, it is connected to basically everything. It can be the repo, it can be the cloud resource, it can be the Jira task that has its own structure, right? So in our organization, we have like some sort of domain owners, whether it's the CISO, whether it's the head of platform engineering. So we have these different domain owners where they want to make sure that everyone complies to the standards they own eventually. And they want to make sure it is really being enforced as part of the services they provide, instead of them chasing them and looking for drifts as part of infrastructure provisioning, as part of releasing a new feature, the same use cases we talked about. So what we're talking about basically is that we want to ensure the quality and reliability of our platforms and software, right? It's basically about reducing chaos, as I wrote here, and creating a better work environment where we really feel peaceful that everything is complied with the standards that we define in our organization, and that we can really update these standards in real time and watch them being complied after a few weeks, because our developers are really, it is being reflected in a good way from up to bottom. So this is where IDPs, and we talked about it also a bit in the last session, and I'll get there in soon, but this is where IDPs provide us with a layer of measurement called scorecards, where you can actually track for these standards over time and see whether your organization complies to these kind of standards you define. So we're talking here mainly about managers, like domain owners, and the ability of developers to follow these standards. And it's really hard because it's not always in the interest of our developers. And it's one of the main problems, right? Because why will a developer care about a certain minor version of a database, right? He should, I agree, but it's not necessarily one of the main things he wakes up in the morning and would want to look after. So it's really about reflecting how they are not following the right standards, and also helping the developers fix these kind of standards over time. how do you know if this is something you need? So production checklists are something that I see in every organization. If you do that manually now, whenever there's a new service you want to deploy or a new cloud resource you want to create, if you measure these in a production, like these production checklists manually, and I was once in an organization that had to do that manually before you would deploy a new platform or a new service, and it was a nightmare. Our CTO was chasing us. We always felt like we were not following the standards, so it's really hard. If you feel like it's hard to stay on top of costs, like against a certain target of costs you have, if it's hard to, and also it sometimes feel like I said before, it's hard to enforce standards while respecting developer experience. If you feel like you want to enforce these standards, but eventually it is making your developers like life a bit worse, and it's not like easy for them, maybe IDPs can make this a bit smoother.
Yeah,
And also,
I
if
agree.
you feel like certain teams are following the standards and certain things are not even aware of these standards, like you maybe need to reflect that better, or like we said before in the feature release process, if you feel like you have some golden teams, but some teams are not even in the right direction, this can be a good call for you to start working with IDPs to track these standards over time, and like we say in Paul, like turn on the lights, like really show what is actually happening inside your environment against the standards you expect your resources to have.
Yep. And if we go back to the number one of like releasing faster, so we need to show we have to have the empathy, right? You know, when you build a platform, you have to have empathy for the developers and try to articulate things in a language that they understand, right? So put it in context of examples of like if you have one team writing a JavaScript, for example, and they're doing JavaScript and they're doing unit testing, they use one framework to do writing all the unit test, and then you move that developer to a different project, and suddenly they're using a different JUnit JavaScript unit framework, right? That's not the
Exactly.
standard in the company because that would delay that person from onboarding. It takes more time. I need to rewrite tests in another language. So you put it in that context, and that applies to architecture, right? How do we do a event-driven applications or like streaming applications, and then to go to the next level of cloud management, right? What a type of compute and storage we're standardizing in terms of security, in terms of like cost management, like it costs less, or is it easier to manage, or like the people that we have on board, like they know best this tool, so let's use Terraform versus this thing, or they know CDK versus this thing. So having standards consistency, so that's what you will look in the platform.
Exactly.
So yeah, good
And
use case. So
consistency
go
is the
ahead.
key word here, because Guy and myself, like we did a session a few weeks or months ago talking about the concept of golden path, like walking your developers in the right path. And some people think that this is like something you do only in day one, like creating a new resource is a golden path, but it's also like an ongoing process. And this is what we talked about in one of the sessions we actually had in the platformers community. So I really recommend watching this one. We for 40 minutes we only talk about standards and what are golden paths. We will use and also showed it in port as an example of how to really give developers a nice way to follow certain standards.
Yep.
And this is like what we're talking about. We want to give developers freedom, but also want to comply with standards. And the golden path is like the sweet spot. Let's move to the next use case, which talks about tracking productivity metrics. This is exactly what we talked about, Carlos, in the first use case. So it's good that we track it, like to track whether our use case is good. But IDPs became like a platform that actually can measure it in real time. That means that you can now actually implement a feature, but also prove that this feature in the IDP is good enough in the IDP. So you can just show metrics of deployment frequency, lead time to change failure rate, the whole DORA metrics in real time, and aggregate that based on real-time data that you already have in IDPs. So it's really cool. And this is like I told you that we have like some use cases that were always there, and some use cases that are really trending. This is super trending. This is something that is like we hear now a lot. And I think it's super important, and it shows how the space is really maturing, because people now understand that you must track and measure your use cases in order to show that they are really valuable. And you also must show the managers that platform engineering is a thing and it really helps your organization. So this is what we talk about, and I cover that why over here. This use case is mainly for managers, right? So you want to track productivity for team leaders and for VPs, for CTOs to show that on different kind of levels. If you feel like you can track, if you like trying now platform engineering, but you don't know how to prove that the use cases you do are actually working, this is the use case for you. It's not easy to prove that you improved a certain aspect of productivity in your team. Some parts are very soft, but it's good that we have at least DORA, which is a good measurement to show how we can improve productivity, DORA space, and so on.
Yeah, that is a very popular way of measuring those, and having that in one place centrally is good to look at. Not to look at when things are going fine, but when like one is then that outlier, right? What is the one thing that you can like pick to optimize? Then you go there and pick like that one thing to start working on. So I agree. Tracking everything. Like if you ask me, like should we track engineering productivity? You should track everything, everything, right? And then correlate of like how is this metric correlate to the revenue metric? That could be your North Star, right? Always tracking of like our features faster because of this metric improve, and do the correlation of like you're improving all these metrics, but they're not moving the needle. So what is the thing that moves the needle, right? That you're looking for. So yeah, I
Exactly.
agree. Having this data collected in one place and having a central platform is the way that you can like send all these data points, right? Either from Git, Jira, your own runtime into a central place on with timestamp, of course, right? Because this is sometimes just measuring once our workflows, the workflows we were talking about at the beginning.
So this is where IDPs really can help you, because IDPs give you auto discovery integrations where you can just connect to a certain tool and bring data about a certain resource. It can be representing your deployments, it can be representing your PRs, and then IDPs give you out of the box capabilities also to aggregate this data.
Yep.
So combine the two and you have DORA metrics, right? So I'm going to show it in a few minutes also in the demo. I think we'll have time to show it. So that's
I
about
think we
it.
have
That's
one
the
more
use
use
case.
case.
Yeah. I'll go over this
Next
one
one is like
quickly.
so we ship the product without the feature. We don't have anything else to do. We don't have to update this app, or we have to maintain it. There's no issues. Like I write perfect code, so there's nothing to worry about. Let's talk about number 5.
So number 5 proves you wrong. Talks about incident management. I will go on this one a bit faster because I do want to leave us some time for a demo. But here we talk about the ability to provide as much context and automations as possible for you to be able to solve the incidents as fast as possible. So the metric I'm talking about here is basically MTTR. Like we want to improve the time, like we want to improve our SLA to reduce the time it takes us to solve a certain incident. So as a company objective, it can be SLA. And it's very critical for organization because this is essentially their product and this is the production of their environment. Now, you wouldn't believe how easy it is to provide context in one place and how valuable on the other end it is. So we're talking about a certain service where you can see, for example, for an incident, you can see the latest deployments, you can see the latest builds, you can see who's the on-call. It's right in front of your eyes, and then you can also perform some sort of operations like requesting just-in-time permission for a certain environment, or maybe quickly redeploy it to the latest image just to avoid the incident and think about it like in a bit more of a calmer mood. So you can involve here self-service, you can involve here the software catalog to provide everything you need in an IDP in one place for the case of incident management. So the main personas here are developers and SRE. I want to summarize this one and move to the demo because I want to show a short demo of how you can really leverage these use cases and how it actually looks like in an IDP, because I always, like during this session, I reference these a lot. And I want to show you, I don't want to just promise stuff, I also want to show you how it actually looks like in port. So Guy, if you can help me just move to the screen sharing of port. Cool. So let's talk about the two use cases that are really common and really trending now in IDP in the IDP world, which is the feature management workflow and also the measurement part. So first of all, we can see here port. I don't know if anyone saw it. By the way, this website is publicly available. You can also do the same things I do now. Actually, while I'm doing that, you can also see that on your other screen, and also you can play with that afterwards. So I'll start by the service catalog where you can see actually all of your services in one place. So assuming I need to create a new feature for the authentication service, I have all the context I need in order to understand what this service is all about. So I can see some information like the language it was developed at, what type of service it is, what tier it is, and I can also see the README and the API spec of this particular service. So it really helps me to get started with this service without scheduling a meeting, without bugging anyone. I can just learn everything from here. And I can also see how this service is related to other entities in my organization, like where it is being ran, what are the open pull requests, the latest deployments, the Jira issues.
I
So it's
recognize some
really,
icons here. I see Argo
yeah,
CD.
yeah, exactly. So all this information you see here is live. It's not something I need to populate manually. These are auto-discovery integrations that are actually connected to my environment, which means that if I now create a new service, create a new Argo instance, or open a new PR, I don't need to do anything besides just seeing that reflected in the IDP. So it
Yep.
auto-discovers my environment and it's being mapped automatically based on my organizational structure. So this is like for me as a developer to start working on a new feature and get all this context in one place. But I also need to do some operations. So you can see here that we have the developer folder where I can start by planning my day, see my open PRs and what PRs are waiting for me to approve, see all of my Jira tasks in one place and what Jira tasks were recently completed, and also see the latest builds and deployments. Just that, I believe that if I was a developer now, would really help me like get context about what is happening behind the scenes and what is my job without having these million tabs in my browser. Second dashboard I want to show you is the development toolkit, where you can see like everything you need for the process of releasing a feature, starting from creating a new service. So I can create a new repo with a CI/CD and scaffold the whole process from a template. Then I can also create a new playground environment for me to test new features. So I can create a really like an ephemeral environment, a temporary environment with everything I need in that environment, the Kubernetes cluster, all the cloud resources. I can give it a TTL to make it temporary. And once that TTL is done, it's been revoked. So everything is super straightforward for me. And I
In
can
this
also
case,
create some, yeah,
it's going to create a namespace or it's going to create a Kubernetes cluster in that developer environment.
it's
I see the
really, it's
I
really
see the
related.
icon there.
So this one will create a namespace.
Okay.
But the beauty of it is that you connect it to an automation that the platform engineer manages. So based on the organizational structure you have, you can decide what this automation will do. In our
Okay.
example, in Port, we provide you like an out-of-the-box example of namespaces, yes.
Yep. Now it works.
But
And
an
then I like the
environment is
feature about
also,
deleting it. I like the feature about deleting the namespace, a TTL. That
yeah,
helps minimize costs, right? If you have things that you deploy and it's taking like CPU and memory, but it could be, I don't know, if you use things like ACK or Crossplay and deploy a large database, right? You want to delete that database, when run it for a long
exactly.
time.
So the developer don't even need to delete it, doesn't even need to delete it, just the time passes and it's being revoked.
Yeah, very good though.
Last thing, because I know we're short in time, I want to also show the DORA metrics overview. So now we show how the flow is being reflected using the portal and how you can leverage it as a developer. But now as an SVP of engineering, for example, or as a team lead, I can see this feature like ROI also in the portal. I can see these DORA metrics based on the same workflows I used here, but now I aggregate these into results. I can see the deployment frequency on an average and over time. I can see the MTTR if we're talking about incident management. And I can also see the mean time for change and the change failure rate, like the ratio between deployments and PR time, reflected to me over here. I can also see that on the context of a single service. So if I go to one of the services as a team lead, I can see how we're standing in the
This is the better view.
productivity
Yeah.
overview. Yeah,
For
so
that
this
app,
one
for
might,
that Oh, for the admin, as an admin, you can see it across the different services.
Exactly. So what I wanted to demonstrate is how you can reflect it to different personas, whether it's a VP or whether it's a team lead or whether it's a developer. So as a developer, I want to know things on a level of a service, but maybe as a VP, I want to see it in a level of a team or a domain, right? Which might be more helpful for me to reflect to my organization. And that's about it. I got so much more to show, and I will be happy to discuss also with my viewers afterwards if you want to talk on LinkedIn or Slack. And it was so, like, I really enjoyed this one. I know we don't have a lot of time. Do you guys have any other points you want to raise?
No, I think these 5 top use cases are more of areas, right? Big areas where we can put a lot of things in it. And one of the areas I'm more interested since I work on cloud is cloud management, right? That you can have in there like cost management. Like you want to reduce the feature to be released from 6 months to 6 weeks or 3 weeks. Would it cost me double, right? Or how do I lower the cost of something? Or how do you track cost associated with a service? That's something that I've been looking at work of, like that dashboard that you have there, like, oh, this service is costing us like, I don't know, this amount in dev and this amount in prod. And then you can start asking like, why? Okay, how can we optimize it? But I think this goes under the cloud management, right? Bucket.
And the
So that's
keyword
why
is
the top
context.
5. Yeah, the top 5 use cases, I think that covers that. You have the day 2 operations, which is managing an incidents, tracking productivity, which is measuring, um, and the standards of like productivity. But the number one I really like, right? If you're not shipping features, you're not making value, right? And in a business, you have to ship features either to increase value and customer experience to your end users.
That's why it's also the most popular one, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. I had so much fun. Yeah, amazing.
Yep. Guy?
That's it. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it a lot, like to understand the use case, how they dig deeper. And I think what would be good is to understand how it comes into things that people can take into their day-to-day and making it practical. But
Yeah,
thank you
and
very much.
the demo looked great. I encourage people, if you're watching live or you're watching the recording, take a look at the demo portal. Right, this is the type of standards and platform engineering practices that Port is putting in this product and this service. It's great that you provide the UI so people can see like these are the things that I can like have in my platform, and they can decide when do I want to make them do it yourself, so things like backstage and things like that, and then measure like, well, how long it will take me to build these widgets, right, in backstage versus using Port, right? That's the thing that you have to analyze, right? And it could be just like, let's just Port because they already wrote the CSS and the HTML and have that thing running, and it makes sense to use Port. And maybe other people say like, we're using backstage, we can use both, or we can use the APIs and mix and match. But at the end of the day, we talk today about the use cases, right? Regardless of where you implement it, they're the use cases to be implemented in the internal developer platform.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Matar, for joining us for the second time. Guy, thank you for hosting also, and thank you folks that are watching either the recording or live. We'll see you until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.